Alright, hey guys, hopefully this is an alright angle. So basically, I thought I would explain, I don't really like this. My bed is not made, so pardon that. But anyway, I thought I would explain the whole, experience yesterday of going to the corn maze, to Hell's Maze, and so yeah, it took us about 3 hours to get there, and that's all I'm really going to say, just for, like, reasons, but we hit, I will say that, alright, so my friend kind of, I guess she didn't know to get to the school at 4, no she did, but she got there really, really early, she got there at like 3:30, and so anyway, she texted me and she was like, there's this guy in a blue van next to me, and I'm like, and she's like, it's really awkward. I'm like, alright, I'll be there soon. I was like, I'm on my way. And so, anyway, I hurried up and, got to, well, I texted her on the way when I was on the way, but don't worry, everything was fine. But anyway, I got there, and I saw my teacher's daughter, I thought, but I wasn't quite sure, because, like, I pulled up, I was going to pull over next to her, but then I saw it was, like, handicapped, so I just, like, reversed and, like, pulled into a different spot. A couple down from her, and then, so I saw the blue van though, and then, so I got out of my car, I went and sat in Kenna's car, and then she goes, that's our history teacher, like she said his name, but anyway, and so I look over and I was like, it is, because she was like, I was listening to the radio, and then my signal went out, and I looked over, and there he was, and, so anyway, then she rolls down her window, and I'm like, well, I said something, let's say hi, so she rolls down her window, and goes, Simon, So anyway, she rolls down her window and she says his name, and he's like, oh, hey. And then she goes, you know, you blocked my signal for my radio. And he's like, oh, and then he was like, what station? And she was like, Caleb. And he's like, oh, blocking the Christian radio, that's not a good sign. Because we were going to Hell's Maze is like a Christian corn maze, thing. It's really cool. I suggest going. It's tonight and tomorrow night. So by the time you see this, tonight's the last night if you live within, a few hours of, like I said, last night. If you live within a few hours, definitely go. And it's 8:45 right now, so if you live in Indiana, well, it's 8:45 right now. Yeah, never mind. This won't affect you, but they're open from 7 to 11, and it was very, very emotional, but it was really good too. But yeah, back to the story. So anyway, I was sitting in Kenna's car. We talked to our teacher a bit. And then we ended up finding my friend Bethany. We went in the school and like found her, and then and his wife got there, and so then we all gathered up. It was my history teacher, his wife, his son, his oldest daughter, and then and then his next oldest daughter, and they're all younger than my friends and I by a few years. And then a few more years, but anyway, so we all gathered up, and we got in his Ford Explorer, and let's just say by the time he drove it home last night, it's not sounding good. It sounds like it's going to fall apart, apparently, which he went home early today, so hopefully, he made it home, but, my teacher. So we loaded in the car, we get on the expressway, we start heading, on our route, and there's a backup in traffic because on the expressway we were going to take there was a 3-car pileup, and so, or something like that, something with a semi, and there was like 3 cars, whatever, maybe 2 other cars I'm guessing, but so we're slowing down, and we look over, and Bethany's like, is that Mrs. So-and-so, our chemistry teacher? And we're like, yeah, so we're yelling her name, we're like, Mrs. That's what I'll say. I'll say, Mrs. Jones. And so we were like holding up my friend Bethany, like, we had to highlight our chart, so hers is like all neon, and she like was holding up against the window, and she was like going like, knock, 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 Mrs. Jones, because she's a Big Bang Theory fan, and so she was like doing the like, da-da-da, Penny, but instead we do da-da-da, Mrs. Jones, da-da-da, Mrs. Jones, which didn't work. So then my teacher's son rolls down his window and he's like, hey, Mrs. Jones! Obviously not Jones, sorry. It's just like weird to me to call her that, because it's not her name. But anyway, So Bethany holding up her chart is mostly what got the attention there. And so I live in Michigan, and my teacher is a Tigers fan, and so Mrs. Jones knew that, and she goes, "Go Sox!" Like the Red Sox, because they were playing Boston last night. We won't talk about who won or who lost, because that's just not right. Just kidding. I don't even care about that stuff. But anyway, and so then my teacher's wife was behind me, and she goes, "That wasn't very nice." But so then we got off on this other little highway and stopped at a McDonald's, and I had a hamburger like an hour before, not even an hour before. So I just got a medium chocolate shake. And anyway, my teacher's whole family was in like their own booth, because there were only 5 of them, but they still, like, that's still, like, you know, a nice size. And so they took up their whole booth, and then Bethany and Kenna and I took up a booth right next to them. But they had like the big corner booth, and we had like, you know, the regular booth type of booth next to it. So then we got back on the road and we got going. So we had already hit the jam, and then the one express we wanted to take was closed. We couldn't use that, so we were going for a long time. We're like it was taking forever, and then we got kind of lost. And anyway, so we made it there to Hell's Maze in Huntington, Indiana, around 3 hours after we left. And it was really interesting. We signed in, got our bracelets, these blue ones, is what our color was, and group number 8 is what, or it has 8 written on it, so I don't know if we were the 8th group of the night maybe. So it was really cool. We went through it, you walk through with your group, and then you watch a scene, you keep walking, you watch a scene. There's 9 scenes total.